A moment of truth is any time any prospective member has anything to do with Toastmasters International. So it might very well be a meeting in this room, or it could be a contact with you socially or in your family. Any prospective Toastmaster that you speak to may or may not become a Toastmaster, dependent upon that very initial moment of truth. And so today I'd like to talk about the moments of truth in our club and what our goals should be as a club and as individual members of our club. Any organization, and this organization in particular, should be concerned most of all with member service and personal satisfaction. That's what we want to offer as a club. That's what we want to receive as members. These are the two most important goals that each of us have. Now last week, George spoke off the cuff about salespeople and how we are all salespeople. And so we must keep this very much in mind when we are Toastmasters. When someone comes through that door, whether they are a stranger who's come for their first time, whether they're a wonderful old member, former member that's come back to visit us, such as Neil, or whether it's Fraser, who was an original member in our club. We all have a responsibility to make sure that those needs are being met. Our first impression is the most important aspect of what we are doing here. Whether or not that visitor or that person we talk to at a party, whoever that prospective member is, the first impression is the most important. To illustrate this, I want to tell you about my first impression of Toastmasters. 2 years ago, when I came to Toastmasters for my very first meeting, we were meeting at Afton Nursing Home. My husband was the sergeant at arms, and he had dragged me, pretty much kicking and screaming, to try this out. He was setting up the meeting, and he was very busy. As sergeant at arms, that's what these magic fairies do, such as John, come ahead of time, set everything out so it's all ready to go, and stay afterwards to clean up. Frank, as sergeant at arms, was setting up the meeting, and I was trying not to be there. I was very nervous and thinking, I could just wait in the car, it's only an hour. I chose a chair and sat down, and one of the members said to me, "Oh, my friend always sits beside me, you can't sit there." Okay. So I got up and I looked around for another chair, and I found another chair and I sat down, and a member said to me, "My daughter is coming as a guest today, I wish you would not sit there." I looked at Frank, who was very busy getting things organized, and I thought, I'm going to have to get a chair from someplace. This was a very small room, there weren't enough chairs. And so I went out in the hallway to look for a chair and came that close to waiting in the car. It's only because of Frank that I came back. But anyone else, I fear, would have just left. So I try to keep that first impression in mind, because a bad first impression can propel you to make other people's first impression better. So I hope that nobody else in this room had the same sort of first impression. We have an executive for our club. Yes, it is the responsibility of all the executive members to make sure that people are greeted at the door, that they're given a package about Toastmasters, that they're given a name tag and asked to sign the guest book and welcomed, and would you like to sit beside me? That's the executive position. We must do that. But each one of us who are members of this club must also do that. If at the end of the meeting your executive is dashing around talking to one another about the executive meeting or things that they have to do, and you, just a member, see a guest who's not being spoken to, has not been welcomed properly in your estimation, please step out there, speak to them. What did you think of the meeting? Will you come back again? Did you get a package telling you what we're all about? How about a magazine? Please step out and help us all to make that first impression, best possible impression it can be. Next, of course, we hope to offer member orientation. Your VP of Education should be speaking to you and asking you, what do you think? Would you like a mentor? Is your mentor doing their job? What are your goals for this year? How can we help you? I know that I hope that everyone is relatively satisfied with how things are going, because I sent out a couple of emails asking people to respond as to what their goals are for this year. And out of our 29 members, I received 8 replies. So that tells me either I'm doing a terrible job as VP of Ed, or everyone's needs are being met. But unfortunately, I don't know the answer. So if your needs are not being met, please speak to us. If there's some way that you can have some help given to you, encourage you in some way, that is what we would like to do. So member orientation is very important. And as we saw in Barb's role playing recently, there's always a lot to learn about being a mentor and having a mentor. Next, of course, the most important parts of our meetings are fellowship, Friday, like my joke, and communication. This is something that when we did the Survey Monkey, which we had 54% respondents for, by the way, which is very high for a survey. When we did the Survey Monkey, we did get some feedback that we would like more variety in our meetings, that we would like more social aspects to our meetings. However, 100% of the people who said they attended fewer than 3 meetings a month could not come because of work or family stresses. So that tells us that generally speaking, people are satisfied with meetings. My timer tells me I better hurry up. Program planning and meeting organization. Personally, I think this is a place where we as Lambton Toastmasters can pick it up. First of all, we don't have much variety in our program. Now, George has recently instituted a change, which is also a result of Survey Monkey and feedback. We're having meetings with 2 speakers one week, 3 speakers the following week. This allows us to incorporate more table topics, which is a request that people had. And so we are trying to respond to some of the requests. But meeting organization, I've noticed in the last 4 or 5 meetings we are running long. This can be very stressful for people who need to be out at 1 o'clock. And that's something that we've always prided ourselves on. So we as Toastmasters must really watch the clock and get things going. Membership strength does not appear to be a problem for us. They encourage us to have at least 20 members in a club. We currently have 30, I believe. But let's not rest on our laurels. Let's make sure we are inviting guests, encouraging guests that do come to join, and recognizing achievements. This is something that we do fairly well. We want to also encourage people who get those CCs to carry on. We encourage people not just by applause, but also we as a club are providing all the manuals, advanced manuals. We have everything on hand here. We're doing all of the things like changing name tags when people get a new designation. So we as a club, I believe, are trying to address this situation, and we're starting to give out certificates for our 6th CC speech. Why do people leave Toastmasters? Surveys show 1% die, 3% move away, 18% choose something else that's out there in the community, 10% are just chronically dissatisfied. Doesn't matter what you do, you can't please them. But 68% are finding that their needs are not met. That's why they don't come back. 68% of people that leave have a problem. So your executive needs to help address those problems, and you as members need to bring those problems to us so that we can make sure we look after them. Let's continue to have a healthy club. I see from our ribbons we have an extremely strong club. Let's keep it that way. Let's all work on our competent leaders, moving forward in our designations. Let's all work on making every moment of truth a positive one. Thank you.
Gail?